All right, so here's a really good tip from or a question from the community. It's like you're working in Rise. So we have Rise right here, right? So let's go ahead and open up Rise. So we have Rise right here. And then you want to integrate Storyline into Rise. So let's go ahead and add a lesson in here. So we'll go lesson 1, and let's add some content. And I'm going to, I'll just put a text block in here, and then maybe we've got a bullet point, and then another text block. So at this point, I want to bring a storyline block into here, but I want to make it look like it's part of the course. So what are the things that we have in Rise? And then what do we have in Storyline? How do we make them look a little bit more integrated? Because one of the things you don't want to do is you don't want to just drop a storyline interaction into Rise and that kind of get this discordant kind of Frankencourse look where it looks like it's something stuck inside of Rise. So what can you do to make Rise and Storyline look like they're a little bit more integrated, right? Because you're using two different applications. So the first thing is when we look at Rise itself, I would say there's some commonalities between Rise and Storyline. One is colors, like you can work with the colors in Storyline, right? You have theme colors. In Rise, you have kind of a core accent color. That doesn't mean you're limited to that. When you build your course, if we come into here and we go to settings, and I do my customized theme, I am limited to a custom accent color, but it doesn't mean that I can't use other colors. So I would come up with like a color palette would be the first thing. So I've got my main accent color. So that's where I'm going to see that throughout my course, right? In little places here or down here and just different places in the course. I'm going to see the accent color. So that's my main color. So I can leverage that in Storyline. Then I may also want to create some derivative colors. And so if I'm working in Rise, I'm going to think about what those would be. And here's an example where I actually integrated. This is the Serenity template look from Storyline. And so I took some of the colors. There's kind of this salmony orange color, and there's this gray, and there's some design elements and things like that. So you can see when I'm in Rise, I use that kind of accent color. So that's my salmon. I chose that to be my accent color. But I do use this gray in other places in the course, and I could use that, fill in my blocks or color the text or whatever I want to do. So even though you're limited or constrained by one accent color in Rise, you can use colors in your blocks in other ways as well. So come up with your main color and maybe like two derivative or other colors that you would use. I kind of like more muted, like grays and stuff, so they're neutral, and then the accent color really pops. So we've got that. The other thing we have is the font. So if I'm in Rise again and I go to customize, I can create my header and body font, and I can also upload custom fonts. And so what I did on this one, for example, I can't remember which font this is, but the font, this is a screen grab from the slide, but the font that's in the slide I actually brought in as my theme font in Rise as well. So you can see now my headers are going to match. And that's kind of a key point. Like if you're using a header in a Storyline file, it's going to have a font type, and then you want to make sure those match. And so again, in Rise, you can do the theme fonts. In Storyline, you could do theme fonts. So make sure they're using the same thing. Then the other thing is just kind of the white space. Like what's the background for this? If it's white, then I'm going to leave my slide white. You can see here's where I colorized the block. I'm using that gray and the salmon color. So a couple of things you want to do. We're going to go ahead and insert something into Storyline. So let's say we're in Storyline. I'm going to use this green here as my color scheme, right? So I don't know what that green is. I'm going to open up my color picker here, and I don't know my color picker, what happened to my color picker. There it is. And so that is my green. So we've got that copied here. I'm going to go ahead and copy that. Let's move this out of the way. So let's go to Storyline. And so I'm going to insert a pre-built interaction. Now when you're working in Storyline, again, a few things you want to think about is what's the theme font match those, and then the colors. And the other thing is like the dimensions of the interaction. This is a 16 by 9, which might be fine. You can also do 4 by 3 or square or whatever you want to do. So that's something to keep in mind. I'm going to use one of these content library slides, and we're going to just choose a pre-built interaction. So, and we know the background's white, so let's just go ahead and choose a white background. Let's see here. Of course, I'm playing around here. I should probably figure all this stuff out. Well, let's use this one. All right, so we've got this one here. We're going to insert that. Now, a couple things I'm going to notice here is this has a certain look to it. So if I don't want this inserted in my course, we're going to go ahead and publish that and then insert it just so we can see what it looks like. So I'm going to, we'll just go storyline test. All right, and I'm going to publish that to review. Go ahead and publish that. And then by default, we're going to have to turn some things off, but we'll look and see what we're doing by default. All right, so let's view that project. So here's our project here. It should be loading up in a second. And now I can see this is what it looks like, right? So I got all the player and stuff. I want to turn all of that off, but let's go back into our storyline block here that we created. And we're going to come into our lesson here. Let's close this out. And we're going to add a storyline block inside of here. So all blocks, we're going to go to interactive, click on that, and we're going to scroll down. There's storyline. Then inside of storyline, let's go ahead and insert that. We'll see what we get off the top. So this is it, our storyline test. And this is what it looks like. Right, so now this is not ideal. If I preview this, got this nice clean look, and all of a sudden this storyline block. So a couple of things. The block has got this default gray. I've got the player. I don't really need all this player stuff. So what are we going to do in storyline? We're going to come over here. Let's turn off all the player stuff first. So let's go to the home here. We're going to go over to player, and let's turn everything off. Since I'm just doing a single interaction, and get rid of this extra slide too. So we don't need the menu. You can come over here, do menu controls, just go off, and then everything's off. The other thing you want to do, hit OK. The other thing you want to do here is you want to turn off the slide navigation. So let's go ahead and get rid of this slide. That was the extra slide. So we've got one slide in here. We're going to come down to the properties. And let's click on that. And we're just going to turn off the previous next buttons because there's no reason to navigate. And let's go ahead and preview this, or we're going to go ahead and publish this over here. We'll overwrite this. Now, because I'm overwriting it, it's overwriting it in review, but it's not going to change it in Rise. I would have to update it. But what I'm going to do in Rise, while that's going here, I'm going to go to Rise here. Where's our template? I'm going to duplicate this block just so we can see what we are doing as we progress through. So let's go ahead and duplicate this block. Now we're going to go over here. We're going to change this, and we're going to update this to the most recent one. And now you can see it's going to look much better right off the bat here, right? So that's this. The second one looks much better, right? So what do I want to do now to kind of create a more integrated look? I can get rid of this. If I get rid of this, this opens up the space I have on the slide because I can put my title and whatever I want to in here. So I'm going to go ahead, let's add a text block. We're just going to do a header, and I'm going to just do a subheading so it's a little smaller, and we're going to call it timeline interaction just to kind of match this. All right, and then what we're going to do now is we're going to insert that storyline block here, and we're going to go ahead, go interactive. Let's do storyline block. and then we're going to insert that. Now, one of the things I'm going to do is change the color, but let's go ahead and build our block in Storyline. We're going to do that. So one thing, let's get rid of this. We don't need it. Now, you can delete this, or you can just hide it on here if you want to keep it, so you can do that. See, now you have all this white space here, right? Depending on the type of interaction you build, you could grab everything. I'm going to do Control G, and you could make things larger, right? We'll assume that works here. It's a little off screen, right? I'm going to do Control Shift G. Oops, Control Shift G. We'll ungroup it. And the main point in here is that I can play around with this and get more space with my with what I have on screen. Make my fonts, my text bigger, right? All that stuff. So I'm actually going to do that. Let's just grab it. This isn't going to be perfect, but you kind of get the general idea. So we're just going to make it bigger because I got rid of that text box, although it looks like I messed that one up, but that's okay. But I got rid of the text box, so now I can really utilize this space in a different way. I see what I did here. I scrunched that up. All right, we'll pretend that's okay. So we would move this around, right, to fit on here. But you can play around with it. But the main point is you can leverage that space and get more out of that. When I click on these things, it's going to show content in here, right? Ideally, they were using the accent or the theme colors when they built this template. So what we're going to do is we want this green here. I'm going to assume it's part of the accent color. We're just going to use that green that we copied, right? So this is our green. So I'm going to copy that. And I'm going to come into my theme colors here. So let's go into the design. We're going to go to colors. And this is using the vibrance theme. So we're going to create a new, let's see if we can edit this. Right click. Nope. We're going to go ahead and create a new theme. And it's going to use the vibrance theme. And we'll call this, Storyline course or whatever you want it to do. And then that green, I believe, is accent 2. So we're just going to change accent 2 to that other green. So now we've got that here. Hit save. So now all of those are matching our accent color. And I'm going to come over here and we'll just make these all that green as well. And that, again, we're going to assume this was using an accent color. I don't know what color that is. That may not be using an accent color. This might be this blue here. So let's go ahead and same thing, design. We're going to go to that color scheme. We're going to edit this one that we just created. I'm going to take this blue. I'm going to make that green as well. And we'll see if that changes it. Okay, hit save. All right, so that did that. Now on this one here, you can change the buttons and whatnot. So we're going to keep it the way it is. So now I've got this green accent color. I get more space on the slide. I've got my green integrated in here. I want to get rid of this background color here and make it all white. So I'm not quite sure where that background's coming from. If I go into my view up here and I can look at my slide master, I can see that there's this background's coming from that, but it's really just a kind of a basic slide. So I can just use a slide because I'm not using any other elements on here. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm just going to change this layout to this blank one here. And oops, it changed the font. So let me go backwards here. So we have to think about the font too. So these are different fonts. We're gonna match the fonts too. So let's go ahead and let's just do that. We're gonna put a blank color on here. It changed my color theme. So let me go backwards here. I'm gonna go back into my slide master so I don't have to change all my accent colors and stuff again. So I'm gonna go to my slide master and I'm gonna come in here and let's just get rid of this. I bet you it's a image on here. So let's go ahead. I'm going to hide that, hit close. And now you can see it's solid green. So you can play around with the templates. So we got a white that's going to match our Rise course. We've got the green accent color. We've got the font. I think the Rise font, if I remember, is, let's go back into our settings. If we go into the customized theme, the Rise font is Lado and Merriweather. We're just going to stick with that, but you could customize it. So we need to go and change we're going to go back to design. We're going to create a font pair, and there may be one that already is Lado Merriweather. So let's just see. I don't see one. So we're going to create a new theme, and we're going to choose our header font, which was Lado. Hopefully I have it in here. All right, we'll just go Lado, and our body font is going to be Merriweather. Hopefully I have that in here as well. I don't. We're just going to use a different font just because. I'm just going to do Lado and Lado. And then I can change that in Rise. All right, so we're going to do Lado, that works fine, right? I'm going to go to Rise here. I'm going to change this Lado to Lado, just to keep it simple. Or actually, let's do something. We'll do, let's see I'll do Roboto Slab, so it's a little bit different looking. Okay, hit save. All right, close, and then let's go in here. I think I have Roboto Slab in here, so let's go ahead, do the same thing. The fonts, we've got, we're going to customize this, and then what was that, Roboto? I think I have that on here. But you kind of get the sense of what we have to do, right? There's Roboto, hit save. All right. So we are good to go on here. Now what we're going to do is we're going to go to publish. So let's go home, publish. We're going to just publish that up here. And then we're going to go back to our Rise lesson here. And now we're going to do our third one in here. And I'm going to replace this. I'm going to edit. I'm going to change this. This should be our updated one. And what we need to do now is change this. So we're going to come to edit again, and we're going to do our settings. We're going to make the background white, which we can just drag over here. You can see we'll do different width on here. We're going to go ahead and do that. Now padding, I'm going to go ahead with no padding, so it pulls it up closer. I'll probably do a small on this one. So the padding, and then we can come over here to our timeline. What we can do there is we can change our padding. We'll go bottom padding, no, and that kind of pulls us in tighter. So now if I preview this, I'm going to move this one up to the top just because it's going to look more integrated, right? And then let me put a divider block in here. All right, so now when we preview this course, you look at this. This looks like it belongs in the storyline course, right? That looks like it belongs in the storyline course. I don't know what happened to our title. Oh, I didn't move the title, that's why. But you can see how it all looks like it belongs versus these things here, right? And that's kind of the key part of that. So I can just take that. I'm going to add my title in here, right? Just do text. We'll just do heading, and we call this timeline interaction, and that's good to go. Hit preview, and this all just looks like it belongs together. And that's kind of the key thing in there is like you have this constraint in Rise with the accent color, but it doesn't mean you can't modify that, right? Like I could also have, like, maybe I took this light blue and I can make the light blue part of my course as well, right? And then I can just colorize the blocks and do different things like I did in this area here where I integrated the gray and colored the blocks. So the key thing though is that you strip out the slide, make the slide as clean as possible, and take out things that you can actually use in Rise, like the title block and subtitles and those things. Then expand the space, make the most use you can of that slide so you have a lot of white space, and then work with the colors and the fonts, and it comes out really nice looking. So hopefully that helps, and I know this is a little longer tutorial, but I thought it's a great way to explain this.